Hey there. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Impulsive Thinker, the podcast for the high achieving ADHD entrepreneur. This episode is brought to you by KADAK, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada, Canada's only charity for ADHD people, families, and anyone who's affected by ADHD. You can find them at www.caddac.ca. Today, I got my friend Wendy Brookhouse back again. And why do I have her back? Well, she's nice, she's fun, she knows her stuff. But ultimately, when we're not recording our last episode, she said something about money mindset really stuck with me. And it's something that wasn't created just recently. No. And then she also mentioned something about how neurodiversity can affect our actions and money. So I think let's start first about your money mindset and maybe how we're trained when we're kids, is what you said.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Wendy's also from Black Star Wealth, Halifax, Nova Scotia. See, I did not follow my list. Welcome back, Wendy.
Thank you. And I serve people around the world.
Yes, you do.
Specializing in entrepreneurs. So I'm going to preface this a little bit, and I'm setting you up here a little bit. I think there are three things that affect how we feel about money or our money mindset. One is how our brain works. Number two is life pressures. And the third one is how we were raised. So let's start with how we were raised, Andre, because I think that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So when I do presentations on this and I ask a room full of folks, how were you taught about money in school?
No.
Unless I'm in a culturally diverse audience, meaning people from other countries, no one puts their hand up. No one will admit to learning about money in our school systems that we have right now. And so the interesting piece there is I then go back to saying we learned about money, whether it was said out of our parents' mouths or not, or how we were raised. But if our parents fought about money, that's a data point we took in about money. Money is bad. It makes people fight. If you had parents who were in and out of debt all the time and they had this cycle thing going on, that has affected how you feel about money. If they said things like, oh, rich people are awful, this type of stuff, like there's all kinds of offside comments that as a child we take to be truth. Okay.
Or even for every hour you put in, you get X dollars out.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to work super hard to have money. You have to work hard. And all debt is bad. All debt is bad. So these are all some of the common things that we've heard as children growing up. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. It's just whether do they currently are these messages supporting what you're trying to do? And so I often ask people to ask themselves three questions to start surfacing the stuff that's in the subconscious up to the conscious mind. And the first question I ask is, what is your first memory of money? And that usually invokes some really interesting pieces, and people will already start to see patterns that they're replicating from their first memory of money. The second thing I ask is, what did your parents do about money or how they treated money that you would like to repeat? The third question is, what did your parents do with money that you don't want to repeat? That actually might be the more instructional question, but this allows you to start surfacing some of the things around mindset that are coming up through your mind, right? That you don't even know that are directing some of your behaviors and some of your things. Well, you may be limiting the growth of your company because rich people are bad.
And you don't even know your subconscious is self-sabotaging it. And then what you're talking about is bringing it from the subconscious to the conscious. So if you're aware of it, you can do something about it.
You can start doing some stuff about it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where
to repeat again, like based on what you're saying, I had this subconscious belief that I needed to put X amount I need to work 1 hour to get X dollars out. And if I didn't do it, I wasn't working, it was good enough. Because the way we were raised, if you were a business owner, you were just leeching off the backs of the hardworking people, and you don't deserve. Right.
There's your messaging.
And I just came to realizing 2 months ago. So I've been, and now I've seen that, like I'm looking back on, holy crap, that's just been really affecting me to become wealthier.
Right. Because now you can say, is this true? And you can go, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And then you can let it go and move on. I'm not saying it's that easy a process, Andre, but I think that it's work that we have to do that we oftentimes don't take the time to do because we're not engaging the emotional side of our mind type of thing.
It's not really discussed either, Wendy.
No.
What financial advisor, even other entrepreneurial groups I'm in, you don't talk about that, like mental health, your subconscious, like all that deep work. It's hard work. You have to come to realizations you don't want to admit to, but it takes hard work, and it's not the norm. It's a lot of us are starting to do it more, and it's not highly acceptable to do, which is sad.
And but it's highly rewarding. So if we focus on what we get from it, it is worth the effort, right?
It's freedom.
Because there's blocks holding you back from wealth sometimes that are self-created in your mind. If we don't know they're there, how do we blow through them so that we can get what we truly want?
Right. Identify the true problem, not a symptom.
Yeah. Overspending is a symptom.
Yeah.
Too much debt is a symptom. Being afraid to raise your prices is a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
All these things are symptoms, or playing small is a symptom.
Yeah.
All these are symptoms of stuff that's in your head that you may or may not have put there, but they're there. Someone else may have put them, but you have to go in and spend that time if you really want to come into your true potential.
Well, that's the key. That's the key question. If you really want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an iterative process. I mean, you may have big breakthroughs at times and then you think you're done, but I think it's an iterative process that we kind of have to almost make it part of our process for ourselves, and personal growth is.
Transformation never ends.
No.
If transformation ends, you're stagnant, right? So if, like, say this mindset that I had, it'll take me probably a year to get completely over it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna have to look at it again because I'm gonna have another mindset that wasn't as big I was trying to get a French word in there, a big impediment.
Yep.
To go in front of this one. Now I'm gonna take this one out of the way. Now I can see more. So it's a continuous process, and I agree.
The second thing I see is really affecting our mindset around money can sometimes be our life pressures, right? We're running a business. That's a full-time job. Are you in the sandwich generation where you have younger children plus parents that may need attention? You have kids that are in all the sports and they need to get to all the games and all the practices. And, now there's societal pressure for you to actually sit there and watch them do all that all the time. So there's all kinds of pressures that can affect your life that keep you from addressing this because of the time frame, or that it's just there's so much immediate stuff that needs your attention that the important but not urgent stuff doesn't always get attention. And that'll affect how you deal with money. One of my favorite quotes when I did my executive MBA, in an operations course, I wrote about this company. And the comment that I got back on it was, you don't see the muck at the bottom of the river till the river is low. Right. So sometimes as business owners, if there's a problem, we just throw money at it because we're not necessarily, because we're busy and the water is high.
And so we hope it goes away.
Yeah. And it goes away or what have you. But then if it's not truly solved, and if we think of the river as the water is our sails and stuff, and they dip, all of a sudden there's all this muck we got to deal with. And it's because we just reacted. Right. Mm-hmm. So I would look at that. The third thing that's very interesting, and this will play nicely, I think, to your listeners, is that it's how the brain works. Okay. So whether you're neurodiverse or not, there are some things going on that will affect how you think about things. For example, heuristics, fancy word. But what it really means is, what are the shortcuts our brain takes to make decisions, right? For example, availability heuristic. That is how much information is available. And so you use that quickly to make the decision. It could be the effect heuristic. This is an interesting one that I am sure all real estate agents face all the time, is that if I own something, it is definitely more valuable than anything you own, Andre.
Yes.
Because it's mine.
Yeah.
So these heuristics will affect things about the decisions we make on investments, whether that's in our business or in outside portfolios or things like that. You know, availability and recency, you know, FOMO, right?
Yeah.
How many people I talk to about cryptocurrency now, or in the past, cannabis stocks or things like that, because they're recent, people are talking about them and they're afraid of missing out. So those will affect how they make decisions about certain things. And then if we get into the neurodiverse side of things, it's even more importantly be aware of how it's manifesting and how it may be affecting some of your decisions. And what I think, I love the term you used earlier, Andre, what rail system do we need to set up to help you
Structure.
understand
Yeah.
the structure and how to make sure that the majority of the time you stay in them? Because
Yeah,
I don't think
boundaries and
anything's
barriers,
100%.
right? Yeah.
Boundaries and barriers that will help you stay on track more often than not. And so I think that's what the so super important of working with an advisor. Like, one of the questions I ask all my clients, Andre, is, okay, we're going to put the perfect plan together and it rocks. We did it together and it gets you everything you want. What could happen that will mean you will not do it?
What will happen?
What can happen that will make you not be successful with this plan? What won't you do?
Hmm.
What could happen? You know, some people will say, well, you know, I'm an impulsive shopper. Okay, how do we build something into your plan to help you have a system to stay on track? If we're not even
Yeah.
asking the question, how can, you know, if all the same pathways are still going to happen, how do we set up new pathways for
Yeah.
success?
Yeah, the impulsive spender. Yeah, in my first engineering company, every time I had a bunch of cash in the bank, I just went and blew it on new equipment or something I wanted. And now I actually have to get technically permission, or I put a couple layers of approvals or recommendation or requests so I can have that extra time to think about it or plan it out.
Put it on the roadmap, right? If it's that important, where does it happen? Where's it in priority? When should I buy it?
Yeah,
It could
because
be
all
a
that created is cash flow peaks and feast and
Yeah.
phantoms, I call it, right? You know, not stop paying myself because I need to pay my staff, and then all of a sudden my kids we had to go on rations, you know, until we can get the cash flow back.
I call it budget lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing there too is that, you know, you bring up a good point, because I see that a lot in paying down unwanted debt. I had a great
Oh,
month. I'm going to pay down all my debt. Well, that's great. Next month isn't as great a month, and now I'm back in my debt. That is so hard on our head in terms of our progress, because then again, it contributes to that cycle of up and down. I would rather you just set up a system and worked it, and maybe it takes you a bit longer, but you don't have these peaks and valleys. I call it smoothing. How can we smooth things?
yeah.
How can we automate stuff so it's not in our head? Like, these are some of the boundaries I set up for myself. I can't remember to pay my TELUS bill.
Yeah.
I have to automate that.
Right. Yeah, that's a key one's automating it or
Yep.
automatically going to the credit card. But just to
And
go back on the loan thing or the debt thing, I think that's a big mindset from most likely majority of people's childhoods.
yeah,
Don't want debt. I got to get rid of debt because I'm paying interest and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately I learned way too late is cash flow is king or
oh,
queen. It's key.
it's key.
So
It does
taking
make
a
it,
financial fee, you know, leasing something, cash flow is more important than that little minor fee to have the leasing.
we have to look at the cost of that, right? Like the opportunity cost of, now you may still have access to your cash. So if something else comes up, you can still take opportunity to
Mhm.
take advantage of it, versus you put it all into that piece of equipment, right?
Right. So
Um,
less transactional, more transformational. Because right now, I mean, I got to get a new bank, new bookkeeper. It's not someone that I know and trust intuitively. So now I'm actually going to pay more in bank fees so I can have a system that I can trust we're not going to get ripped off. So now that fee, which I fought for the last 20 years, is now an investment. Like
That's your
that
peace of
$8
mind
worth it
fee.
because I can go to bed and not worry about if I'm getting ripped
That's your
off.
peace of mind
Right.
fee. Because I think there's the
That's the
ideal
value.
way to do things,
Yeah.
and then there's the way that you sleep at night. And if there's a gap, I always veer towards the sleep at night solution, right? Because
Mhm.
and we can inch you towards ideal. Over time, as you get more and more comfortable working your system, you can get there, but you don't have to go all at once. And I think sometimes we let the fees and let costs push us into, well, we got to do it this way because it's the ideal way versus the way that I sleep
Yeah.
at night.
Or for me, I
And
just don't want to pay those fees to give the banks all this money. But you know, the amount of time I waste to save the $5 every month is like I could have made 4 more calls and just take care of that bank fee for the next 5 years.
right. I love that perspective. The other thing I see a lot of is siloing of money. And so
Ooh,
one of the
nice
things I
term.
like,
Explain.
thank you. What I like to do, especially on the personal side, Andre, I run into people all the time. They have an account for travel. They have an account for this. They have an account for that. And you know, this is my savings account. And then what I do is when my money comes in from I pay myself. And then I'm going to put so much over here, so much over here, so much over here. Oh, this bill's due and I don't have quite enough. I'm going to pull some over here from back out of the travel into here, whatever. So this siloing is actually adding complexity.
Yeah.
So if you actually just say of the money sitting in my main account, this much is for my travel, instead of trying to push it over, it can make a huge difference.
In what way?
Because if we're doing it too much, sometimes we're just operating so tight that the timing of a bill can matter. If we have enough resources or buffer in our main account, the timing of the bill does not matter anymore. You can let that go off your mind.
Okay. All right.
So I'll give you a concrete example. I had a
Mhm.
client who had money in the silos. And I looked at her in the meeting and I said, I'm going to ask you to do something that is going to be super hard for you. I want you to take the money in your savings account and put it into your main account and just leave it there. And don't earn any interest, nothing. Now, what was interesting is within a month and a half, she called me and said, I got paid today and I forgot that I was going to get paid today.
Right.
Because the systems were working.
Right.
The money's still there. It's just working for you differently.
Right. Yeah, that's key. And for me, I guess technically I'm a siloer because I never had enough cash to pay my credit card bills.
Mm-hmm.
So I created another account. So as I paid something on a credit card, I went home and immediately transferred that money into this savings account so that when I had my statement, I always had the money to pay that bill.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my main spending account, and then savings, and then this credit card payment. But every other bills, we figured out for us, we know I need certain amount of money at certain times in my account to know I can cover all the regular bills.
Yep.
And then from there, because the other thing too, well, now that everything's digital, I used to take so much money out of the ATM, and that was my spending money for the next 2 weeks as I paid bi-weekly.
Yep.
But to put in one, I can see where it'd be scary.
It's super, super scary. We're used to segmenting things kind of like that. The other key piece here, Andre, that I see is maybe the number one thing that happens with entrepreneurs is they do not automate their pay from their work.
What do you mean by that? Or give us examples there.
So for example, I'm going to put some money over to my bank account from my business account to my personal account. We're going to run along and then I'm going to go, oh my God, the mortgage is due. I don't have enough money. I better pay myself again.
Right.
Versus twice a month, this much money shows up in my personal account from the business account.
Mhm.
It's game changing. And I have actually had to help people sit with them and do the app so that they actually automate it because it's so hard to envision that, oh my God, my business might need this money.
Oh, it's a scare. You're always afraid of that.
Yeah.
Always afraid of that. So how can you get me out of siloing? How can I have faith that if I just have one account that I'm going to have that? Because I'm always afraid of not having enough for bills or the debts I'm doing or whatever that I decide that I'm putting aside for travel.
Yeah. So again, it's figuring out what all those numbers are, making sure that every month the right amount of money comes over from the business into your main account, and then spending within limits, right? So that's where I came up with the weekly spending number. We call it the one number solution.
Mhm.
That is the number where you control your spending the most. It's on your lifestyle stuff, right? It's on groceries, it's on entertainment, it's on eating out, it's gifts. It's all those things that we spend money on for our lifestyle, that we have the most control over. We don't have control over our mortgage payment. We don't have control over a whole bunch of other payments. We can control how we spend money on a week by week basis. I
Right.
also do it as a one lump sum, as opposed to siloing it into different categories. You have this much for groceries. You have this much for this. You have this much for haircuts. That is mental math all the time.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
And I
taxing.
hate mental math. What I prefer is, here's your lump sum for the week. Now, what's going on this week that I would have to make sure I have enough for? Oh, it's haircut week. I'm going to need, if you're a woman, you need way more than the men, but
Yeah.
I know I'm going to get that done. So I'm going to make sure I have that.
Well,
It
the
may
men will
mean-
spend more money than women on other things too. So it's
Oh no,
two-way
I'm not
street.
just, it's the pink tax, Andre.
Oh, yeah, that too. Fair enough.
So I don't worry about that, but I think that changes how we think, because money is not a straight line, or our expenses are not straight line. So it allows us to make choices every week as to how to deploy that money.
So how to come up with this one number?
So what I like to do is look at a whole bunch of factors. One is, what lifestyle are you used to living? Because you can't put yourself on a big old diet. You have to have something that's a number that you can sustain and use. I usually use it as a part art, part science, Andre. Some of the
Mhm.
science stuff is, here's how much money is coming into your account every month. This is what you should spend on lifestyle. But when I go back and I like to analyze past spending so I can understand habits, I can understand what has happened in the past, to use it to inform the art part of
Right.
my spending. Because if it's too big of a cut, it's not sustainable. And, it's just like a crash diet. At some point, we're going to binge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And what I like, full disclosure here, I am using the one number solution. And I thought it was kind of silly at the beginning, to be honest.
For
Really?
sure.
You're going to do this, whatever. But it is true. Every time we make a expenditure, it's shared by my wife and I. Groceries, we put it right in the app and it tells you how much you got left for the week. And
Yeah.
we've had to go say, actually just happened a couple of weeks ago, because now the grocery shelves, this is during this COVID stuff, shelves are starting to look bare. So we were already low in the COVID, not the COVID number, the one number. But we had to make a decision. We need to stock up right now on quite a few things. So we're going to go low. And now this week we're actually spending zero.
So here's the thing, Andre. You consciously made that decision to go off plan and it was worth it.
Right. But something
Okay.
was in my face to tell me that.
If not, if you were on a budget and you said, well, you're lucky you went to zero, but some people will have a week where they say $100 a week for groceries. They spend $150 the next week. I'll just spend $50 next week. Well, they don't.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where the spiral effect happens.
Well,
And
right
then
now the
people are
app is showing in big red, minus 600. Right. And we know what our renewal number is on Sunday. It's still going to be red. That's what it's saying.
But
what I
you
like
have
about,
guidelines.
well, it's a structured system and it's simple. That's what I like about it. I didn't really believe it at the beginning because it's too simple. And, honestly, I didn't have much trust in financial advisors, but you're not a financial advisor. You're a wealth manager, a wealth building expert for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But it really keeps it down to simplicity.
Yep.
And having so what we did is we set up a budget of a year, what we know is our fixed costs, what we want to spend on the kids for sports, where we want to travel, blah, blah, blah. And then, if we want to do a big trip next year, then actually our weekly number will probably decrease for us to be able to
It
afford
allows
it.
you to make decisions in context.
Right.
Okay. Because the world is being set up more and more on how low can I get the payment, so
Yeah.
that mentally we don't understand what the implications are, because we're not doing that whole big math, particularly around toys. If you go and look at a boat at, a big fishing place,
Mhm.
and they have a 20-year payment plan, do the math and you'll realize you have paid that for that boat 3 times over, even though it's only $50 a week.
Yeah. And the whole contest thing is I think even for the neurodiverse brain, especially ADHD, is since we did that back work,
Mhm.
we know that this is doable, or we know that everything's taken care of and I don't have to worry about it again.
Yeah.
Right. So with the siloing like for me, it's still, I'm kind of a hybrid model.
Mhm.
But it's still taxing, mentally taxing to make sure that things are done but in this way, the way I'm starting to see it's going, it's just, yeah, that one number is there. As long as we stay within it, everything else is taken care of. I don't have to worry about, do I have enough money cash in that account to cover these bills? Now, when
Mhm.
surprises come, that happens.
It does.
You're able to deal with that at the time, but reducing that frequency is powerful.
Really, really
And then
is.
for the ADHD brain, who just, these surprises, the brain doesn't take it well, then we can get some severe actions that are regrettable or
Yeah, right.
undeniable,
Yeah.
right?
And even those who aren't neurodiverse, they're still prone to spend too much sometimes just because they had a good day or a bad day. And this just helps them, give them the guardrails.
Or the emotional side of it. Yeah. Emotional eating, emotional drinking, emotional spending. Yeah. Like honestly, that's what you talked about a lot the last time we chatted. Is like, and this is what I really liked about it. You said in this episode, you like to bring the subconscious to the conscious mind
Mhm.
around our money mindsets. And you said they have three factors, correct?
Yep.
How we were raised
Yep.
affects that, which is the way we were raised. We don't remember what we're raised or what was discussed, but all those mindsets are definitely in the subconscious. And how do we get it out? Life pressures, being an entrepreneur, parents, or a highly travel lifestyle or whatnot, are heavily involved with other things outside of home and work, and how your brain works.
Yep.
Not only neurodiversity you're referring to, mental health will affect it, even, the neurotypical brain, or like you said, the emotional side of it. The emotional side of things, or your perceived core beliefs and self-confidence, affects how your emotions are and affects how your brain works. And then your one number solution, I think, for the ADHD entrepreneur, if all you have to worry about 1 week is this one number, and you got an app that just put the amount, submit, and it automatically resets. Very simple, less taxing. I think I don't have to worry about it right now. Now every Sunday I do my books at home, and it's actually down to half an hour versus the hour and a half, 2 hours I used to do with the multiple siloing or making sure everything's in order.
Yeah. Right.
But having a plan like that is very key, because you actually start seeing that bank account increase, right? It's just, that number keeps increasing. He's like, what the hell's going on here? I never seen that before. What am I going to do with this money? Well, the one number says nothing. Okay. So, any last thoughts?
It's worth the time and effort to get the plan in place, Andrea. And it's
Yes.
also this, and please banish from your head any things about worrying about being judged. The right advisor will not judge where you are. And also the next word I'm going to say is get rid of as well, is where should you be, and worrying about that you're not where you should be and you will be judged. Just banish it. These are again, subconscious programming,
Yeah.
societal programming. If you can bust through them, you're going to change your life and transform your life with your money.
And like you said, the right financial wealth advisor is
Yep.
key to that success. Well, thanks again, Wendy. And at totalwealthscore.com, you do have an assessment tool about money mindset.
That's part of it. Yeah,
part of it.
absolutely.
That'll be in the show notes too, and everyone's available to go check that out. And I recommend that you do. Thanks again, Wendy, for your time. This is a fantastic conversation around money mindsets. I think this is applicable to all entrepreneurs, not only ADHD entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Andre.
All right. And to you, the listener, thanks again. I'd like to hear from you what your thoughts on this episode, and what do you think about the one number solution? You can email me at questions@theimpulsivethinker.com. Once again, thank you for listening, and please share and like and send us a comment. Much appreciated. Take care.